And there's this really weird thing that I saw in the hair care industry. And it applied here too in medical aesthetics. And that is that 20% of the hair care business is now a rental model. Where people rent the chair, rent the booth.
The cutters. The
stylists.
I'm sure it's over 20% here in Manhattan Beach.
Okay.
Everybody has their own chair.
In the past, the hair salon would pay for the marketing cost, but the customer were with the stylist. If the stylist moved, they went with them.
Yep.
So I was like, this is really weird. And this is what's happened. It's moved more and more and more to rental. And I said, this is the exact same dynamic in medical aesthetics. The exact same dynamic where the med spas, I've talked to some of the large mid-sized chains or groups. They've said to me, their biggest problem is HR. It's not necessarily getting patients. It's keeping the top injectors, the top providers. So I was like, this is a perfect model. The rental model will move to medical aesthetics. It's inevitable.
Welcome back to the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business, and today is no exception. Today I'm going to be interviewing Iggy Fanlo from Vansanity, correct?
Yeah, Vansanity.
Yeah. Welcome, Iggy. Thanks for coming all the way out here to Manhattan Beach here and joining us at the Technology of Beauty.
I've come from Boston. It's March. I left snow and rain, and here I am. It's sunny and beautiful, and I can't wait to enjoy the day.
Well, we're so happy to have you, and I'm glad you came all the way out from Boston. You know, today everybody's flying in to the Technology of Beauty. It's great to have you.
Yeah.
Just don't spend too much time here. Everybody's coming here. The weather's so great. So, Iggy, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Tell us about yourself first before the company.
All right. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. So, Iggy is Ignacio. So my parents are Cuban refugees.
Okay.
And I was born in Miami 8 weeks after they left Cuba. They fled Cuba illegally in 1961. And so they left on the Feast of St. Ignatius, July 31st, and that's why I got the name, Ignacio.
I love it.
Yeah. So,
¿Habla español también?
Sí. Español fue mi primer lenguaje.
Muy bien. Okay, so you were born in Miami in 61.
Yeah, I'm an old fart.
So where'd you go to college?
I went to Princeton. Chemical engineer, and then went straight to Wall Street to trade derivatives. So I spent 15 years on Wall Street. My dad was an engineer. He's a PhD, actually a professor of engineering. And told me, he passed recently, so I'm sorry if I get a little emotional. But he always told me, study engineering. It's a great discipline. You'll learn how to solve problems, but don't be one. Don't be one. Use it as a tool. Use it as a stepping stone. And that's what I did. I considered going into engineering, but I found this fascinating thing that was going on Wall Street. It was
derivatives.
Well, in the early 80s, it changed. So before the early 80s, Wall Street was more of a kind of a boys' club and high brokerage fees, probably free brokerage or low brokerage. And then the things exploded in the late 70s and 80s. And there was this sort of sea change for technologists and math and it completely changed the world. And honestly, I was kind of cutting edge on that. But 10 years later, I was blown away by PhDs and math guys and physics guys. You probably read about all these quants now. And so that was just on the cusp when I went there. So I was there for 15 years.
Okay.
And me and a couple of partners from Morgan Stanley left in 98 to try to do this kind of crazy thing with REITs and derivatives. And our timing couldn't have been worse.
Because 7 and 8 happened, right?
Well, 98.
In 98 we had another turn down. That's right.
Yeah. There was the Russian debt crisis. Actually, it was Russia, like today. There was a Russian debt crisis. The thing blew up. And there was this hedge fund. I don't know if you remember the name, Long-Term Capital, that was based out of Greenwich. It was all the guys from Solomon Arbitrage Desk. They had repurposed themselves as this massive hedge fund, super smart guys. And we were using similar strategies, and we were looking at doing kind of what kind of what's called a resume REIT, where a few guys that know the world go out and just raise some capital. Unfortunately, our timing was so bad, our underwriters, who are no longer with us, that was Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns, they told us, listen, there's a couple of Nobel Prize winners over at Long-Term Capital, so we like you guys, but
you don't really.
We don't know if we're going to be able to make this happen. So if you guys want to go to the beach for a couple of years, let the dust settle and come back. So my partners went back to Wall Street, but I said, I don't know about this. And it so happened that there was a woman named Mary Meeker at Morgan Stanley. She was a partner. Back then, Morgan Stanley in the late 90s, I don't know the exact number, but I think my year when I became an MD in 94 or 5, I'm going to say they made like 12 that year. Like it was a big deal. Right now, there's tens of thousands of employees. But anyway, I knew her, not well, but I knew her. And she was talking to me about the internet and what was going on. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get involved. So starting in 99, I took a couple courses at night down at NYU about web development and Unix, and I convinced myself I got to get involved in this, and I did. I don't want to drag the story out too much.
No, I want to get to know you.
Yes.
So you got involved in the internet in the late 90s.
Yeah, late 90s. I joined. I was fortunate enough because of, back then, even then I had some gray hair. So back then in the late 90s, it was all kids, and I was in my early 40s. And people said, okay, if you can be kind of the CFO, COO of these little startups. And I picked this one startup. I just liked the people. I liked the idea. And that was in 99 I joined. And 5 years later, we took it public in 2004. And a year or two after that, eBay bought us for, I think it was $675 million, and I was hooked. I just loved being an entrepreneur, and I loved being part of a new idea, and it was fun. It was just fun. I mean, going to work was fun. And so since then, I've had a lot of failures. I could go over those.
Like all good entrepreneurs.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not failing, there's no way you're going to...
You're not trying hard enough.
No, and there's no way you're going to be truly successful.
There you go. I like that. So we tried to do something. We were the first ones, we believe, we may be wrong, to try to do what's called an ad exchange, a real-time bidding. So you know how on Wall Street they do... I think it's called high frequency trading.
Yes,
so they're they literally try to get closer physically so that the milliseconds on the wire, that's why racks of space, literally servers, the server space is so expensive near the exchanges because they want to have the bid so close physically because of speed of light.
Oh, be darn. I didn't know that.
So that's what high frequency does. And so 95% of bids and offers on the exchange never trade, because it's these little high-frequency trading guys trying to find where the market is.
And they're playing on the VIG. They just want to get arbitrage?
By putting bids and offers really quickly, they can find where the real volume is, kind of what's behind it. And front-running is too strong a word, but it's kind of what it is. If you know that there's a big bid and not much offers, you're going to go chase the offer and move it up, and the bids will follow you.
Right.
So they get out in front of it. That's why these guys like Robinhood, honestly, they were getting paid for what's called trade flow. So they were the ones sending that information essentially to the Citadels and others of the world. I'm probably going to get in trouble saying this, but that's what happened. That's why for high frequency trading, Robinhood got in trouble for, hey, you're not making any commissions. How are you making money? Well, it was selling the order flow.
Yeah. So how did you get involved in the beauty business? Take us back to the beauty business.
Yeah. So I had done a healthcare startup that was moderately successful. We sold it to Great Call, who then got bought by Medspa. And so I looked at the healthcare business, and I really liked it. I mean, it really helped. I have a mantra that your company is worth pretty much exactly the average amount you help someone times the number of people you help.
Okay.
I literally believe that. You can Google, it helps me a lot. Facebook helps people connect, but they do it at the scale of billions. Or you can help people a great deal, not a little bit, but do less. You know,
I gotcha.
The bigger, like you might say at Gucci, they help people feel good about themselves. So anyway, I was watching, and I don't remember if it was the 80th or 90th Academy Awards. We were at somebody's house. I always like to say the Academy Awards is the wives' version of the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So they're up in the front watching the Academy Awards, and the guys are hanging back, I don't know, drinking bourbon or wine. I don't know. We're in San Francisco at the time. And they're showing all these clips of 10, 20, 50 years ago.
Okay.
And you notice, I mean, anyone could notice, but the bar for personal hygiene, for aesthetics, for looks, for teeth was way lower 50 years ago.
Right.
I mean, no Hollywood star would look like that now at the Academy Awards.
Not hardly.
Not hardly. And then I thought, I remember David Beckham when he came out in the 90s as the first, it's got to be 25 years ago, the first metrosexual, didn't have any body hair. It was all gone, tattoos. And I remember going with my friend who has a place down in South Florida. And I said, Brian, things have changed. He's my age. And I said, let's go down to South Beach. And I'm going to make you I'm going to ask you for the over-under of we pass 100 men on South Beach. How many will have chest hair? And I think he said, 30 or 40 will have chest hair. I said, I'll take the under on 5. Those are young men. There was one person out of 100 that had chest hair. And I said, the beauty industry has changed, the bar is changing, and it just keeps moving. Because I said, 100 years ago, you didn't even use shampoo. And so I said, there's this massive mega trend. And you have selfies. You have social media. When I was my daughter's age, maybe I took, 2, 3 photos of myself a year. My daughter takes hundreds, thousands. So the scrutiny is incredible. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, this is inevitable. And I looked at some of the numbers. I looked at medical aesthetics. I loved it, too, because it was consumer pay. So there wasn't that whole insurance issue.
Right. No government, no third party.
Bingo. And I was like, the margins are amazing. So this is an amazing financial opportunity. And then the last thing I checked out was, hey, there's this weird, I call it, this is my marketing vocab, CAC LTV. Maybe customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value. Every marketing person will say, what's your customer acquisition cost and what's the lifetime value of the customer?
Right.
And there's this really weird thing that I saw in the hair care industry. And it applied here too in medical aesthetics. And that is that 20% of the hair care business is now a rental model. Mm-hmm. Where people rent the chair, the booth.
The cutters.
The stylists.
I'm sure it's over 20% here in Manhattan Beach. Everybody has their own chair.
Right.
They rent it.
And the reason they do it is this CAC LTV. In the past, the hair salon would pay for the marketing cost, but the customer were with the stylist. Mm-hmm. If the stylist moved, they went with them.
Yep.
So I was like, this is really weird. And this is what's happened. It's moved more and more and more to rental. And I said, this is the exact same dynamic in medical aesthetics. The exact same dynamic where the med spas, I've talked to some of the large mid-sized chains or groups. They've said to me, their biggest problem is HR. It's not necessarily getting patients. It's keeping the top injectors, the top providers. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is a perfect model. The rental model will move to medical aesthetics. It's inevitable. I hope it's Vansanity. I think it's Vansanity that's going to make it happen, but it will happen with or without us.
So before you go any further, where did Vansanity come from?
Yeah.
Tell us about the derivation of the name, and then we're going to go back to, I want to know more about what the heck it is.
Yeah.
So tell our viewers and our listeners, what is Vansanity?
Yeah, so Vansanity came to me from a former board member of mine, a woman. I just love her. She's fantastic. Her name is Laura Karstensen. She is a psychology professor at Stanford University for 20-odd years. Uh-huh. And she said she's National Academy of Sciences. And she had worked with me on a couple more what I'd call obviously socially beneficial companies.
Okay.
And when I told her about this idea, I told her sheepishly, because I was like, it's going to seem frivolous, and this is a very accomplished. She said, Iggy, this is the best idea you've ever had. And I was like, wow, I didn't expect that at all. And I said, why do you say that? And she said, as a psychology professor, I can tell you that people do these things not for others. Whether it's the way they dress, whether it's the hairstyle, whether it's cosmetics, they do it for themselves. That 95% is to make you feel better about yourself. And so I said, vanity is sanity. Vanity is sanity. It's improving your sanity, your self-worth.
And I thought it was vanity insanity.
Yeah,
but it's vanity sanity, so Vansanity.
Vansanity, and I checked out the URL, and there was a punk rock group that had the URL. They'd held it for 20 years, but they were defunct. And so I messaged the guy through one of the URL domain registrars, and I bought it for a few $100. But I really think it's true. I mean, and so it was thought of as a brand name. And so I could have called it Medical Suites or Medspa Suites, but it's too generic. I want people, it's a weird name, but I wanted people to remember it.
Well, they're going to remember it after today.
Okay.
So Vansanity is the name of the company.
Yes, it is.
Now tell us what you do.
Yeah. So the first thing we started with, I've always wanted to make across the country, across the globe with this idea. But it didn't exist. I kept looking around. There must be somebody who's done this. And the reason I don't think they had done it yet, not that somebody hadn't thought of the idea, it's just about critical mass. Because unless there's enough providers and enough demand for this kind of rental model and aggregating it, doesn't really make economic sense. It's kind of like Uber. If there's not a lot of drivers and not a lot of riders, you need density. Vansanity right now is a location in Boston and Dallas where a provider, nurse practitioner, doctor, whoever, esthetician can come in, rent rooms, rent machines, get prescription products at wholesale, and do it by the hour.
So it's kind of a WeWork?
Kind of a WeWork.
A little bit?
Yeah, but it's...
So as a physician, I could come and rent space from you?
Yeah, you can come and rent
Or
space.
if I were an esthetician?
Yeah, if you're legal, you had a medical director, you had your malpractice insurance, you could come in and say, I'm going to rent 4 hours today. I'm going to bring 8 clients through. You can buy Botox from us or Dysport or other...
Do I pay you by the time?
By the hour.
So it's by the hour. So it's not a percent of my revenue?
No.
So if I make a lot or a little, I just pay you by the time?
By the time. We have many nurses, I'm not kidding, who make $300 to $600 an hour. And you could do the math, right? A Botox treatment, $500 or $600.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
And you'll sell the product, or if they bring their own product in?
They can bring their own product in. We have a group called Vansanity Medical Services. It's owned by physicians. It's a sister company of ours.
Okay.
And we resell or sell the product at our wholesale price. We don't take any markup.
Do you have devices there, like lasers and so forth? Do you then rent them in addition to the...
Yeah.
Okay, so walk me through that.
Sure.
Let's say I want to do a BBL Halo Cyton.
Yeah, we have one.
Okay.
We have the Jewel X, so we have that. They come in, and if they want to do a Halo, they buy the Halo tip from us.
Uh-huh.
And they rent the machine for the hour. They rent the room. They go in. They do their treatment. Probably charge $1,500. And between the room and the tip, maybe they pay us $400, $500. And so they pocket $1,000 and
off they go.
Off they go. And it's their own business. They even charge their client, whether it's Venmo or Square, or they have a card they use or whatever. But people go in and, essentially what I think of this model, I know it sounds a little too, I call it a cloud med spa.
Okay.
And the reason is, this is my theory as a finance guy, is that cloud, everybody thinks it means tech. It isn't. The first cloud was electricity.
Okay.
All cloud is rentable, scalable, and on demand. So before you used to have your own fire, your own whale oil and lanterns. Now you can just turn it on and off when you want. You rent it by the kilowatt, and I can do 1 kilowatt or I can do 1,000 kilowatts. And that model then, Jeff Bezos and Amazon took it to computing. They took it to storage. Now there's even, I think it's Travis Kalanick from Uber. He's the CEO. They did it with kitchens now. I don't know if you've heard of cloud kitchens.
I have.
All these things are, whether it's electricity or kitchens, or it's capital expenditure fintech. It's about taking someone's capital expenditure needs to start a kitchen, start a restaurant, to create their own server rooms, and saying, no, just rent it by the hour. In fact, at the company we sold, shopping.com, for $675 million, of our 350 employees, we had close to 120 doing network operations, meaning they were in 3 different locations around the world, putting in servers and racks. You could do it with 5 people now with AWS or Google Cloud or Azure and Microsoft. You could just turn it on and off. So you've taken all that expense out, buying your own compute, buying your own servers, renting your own space. That's what they did. We're trying to do the same thing for Medspa because it's such a great business. And these ladies, and it's 95% ladies, are now their own boss. And I will send it to them. They'll be so excited. They're working 1 day a week and making $4,000 or $5,000 in 1 day. I mean, making $250,000 a year net. They probably have some marketing costs working, I don't know, probably 30 hours a month. And I love it. I love it.
So you're not responsible for any of the marketing or patient acquisition or any of the metrics or analytics. You rent the space and or the supplies, the consumables, be it capital or injectable and so forth.
Exactly.
And where's the liability lie?
The liability lies with them because we don't even know the patient's name.
Do you share any of the liability?
We have some.
Or are you like a renter? Are you like a landlord? Are you a landlord?
Yeah, we're more like a hotel. More like a hotel. But the interesting part I wanted to talk about too, and I'll go back to it, I'm sure, is we really want to become a management services organization. Because
I know a little bit about MSOs.
Okay, there you go. So we can start one in Boston, we'll start one in Dallas like we did, LA, Chicago, Florida, Atlanta. But we could scale this 10, 20 times faster. And we now have had like 3 or 4 people have contacted us saying, can I franchise you? And I was like, no, I'd rather do an MSO. I don't want to get into the brand stuff. I don't want to get into the geography stuff. What I'd love to do is, here's all the tools. We have proprietary software, app, this large buying group that's getting lower and lower prices. We have these relationships with a couple of the machine manufacturers I have convinced them. We're so small, I think it's a small risk. I can't say who they are. I'm under NDA, but a couple of the top manufacturers I've told them, just like software moved to SaaS, your machines, you should move to MaaS. Machines as a service.
Right.
You should be renting these things by the use, not a $100,000 machine or whatever the price is. You rent it for $100, $200 a use. The amount of people that can use it will explode. It is the story of technology. It's lower the price, explode the application. And so that's my goal, is if we do an MSO, a management services organization for Vansanity, instead of having 5 or 10 locations in a few years, we can hopefully have hundreds of others with their brands, their businesses, and they create little, if you want to call it WeWorks, but they create their little rental groups. They can make great money. They empower their providers, their provider clients like we do. They're making great money. And we're just like a Marriott taking a little bit for providing the software and the platform.
Right. This is unbelievable. So you now exist in 2 locations?
Correct. Boston and Dallas. And we just opened Dallas, not even 5 weeks ago.
And where's your funding coming from?
It's friends, family, and myself and a couple partners, and we've.
Are you going to do a raise, or you have a series?
We're looking at doing one now.
Because you're talking about going to many other cities.
Yeah,
is this going to be all friends and family, or angels, or how are you going to do this?
I don't know. Well, the beauty is when you do an MSO, it's super capital light, because we're not doing the leasing. We're not buying the machine. We'll put the machines in that do per use, so there's no capital to us. We're not renting the space. This is software services.
Wait, you're renting the buildings, aren't you?
No.
Who's renting the buildings?
So I can't mention the name, but we have a medical director in Arizona. We have one in Massachusetts, another person here, actually in Manhattan Beach that used to be in Boston, is looking at opening one. She works with us now in Boston, and she's like, I'm moving back in the next 6 to 12 months. I can they're basically people that either have a group of injectors that they know, but what's even better is either an existing med spa or a medical director who has 20, 30, 50, 70 injectors in their group. And we'll say, listen, you just have to open a space, outfit it, and we'll provide all the rest of the infrastructure, all the other infrastructure. It's kind of like Marriott, right? You do the hotel and we'll make it happen. If the key is bringing the providers. That's another thing I realized. Unless you're world class at something or it's incredibly strategic, you shouldn't do it. And we're not world class at attracting providers. We'll do it if we have to, like we had to in Boston, Dallas, to prove the concept.
Right.
But I'm sure there are people in Manhattan Beach here, they're either a group of injectors or a med spa. And, I'm sure there's people at the top and the bottom that go, hey, this is a better model. I'll never have to worry about people leaving me again. Because it's like Amazon Marketplace. People don't know this. Amazon Marketplace, I'm going to get the number slightly wrong, but it's more than 90 and less than 10. So something like 7% of the merchants do 90 to 95% of the sales on Amazon Marketplace.
Is that right?
It's a complete power law. And it's because the cream rises. And we see it, not 97, but 80-20 for sure, maybe 90-10. The best providers that do the best marketing, that provide the best service, the hustle, get the lion's share of the business.
Yep.
And so you don't have to be the HR filter. It sorts itself out. The best ones are killing it, renting rooms, and they're psyched. And and the more we grow, the lower our prices get. And so the more and more money they make.
Mm-hmm. And the more affordable it is for everybody.
Exactly. It's just a win-win-win-win.
So you have 2 locations now.
Right.
And you've talked about many more. Where are you going to go next? What's the future look like?
We would consider, I guess I've heard it described as the smile of the country. From about the
Smile States.
The Bay Area up to D.C. or whatever. So that's where I think it'll end up going. But like I said, we really want to go MSO hard. Could we open a couple more? Sure. I mean, I wouldn't be averse to it. And I like having 1 or 2 because I like to say, you want to eat your own dog food? Mm-hmm. I got my own 2 dogs. When you eat it, you feel all the pain.
Yes.
So it's good to keep your toe in the water. But at the end, I'm old enough. You want to help people, right? Like I said, get back to helping people. We can help 50, 100, 200 providers in a location, maybe a little more. But if we do it with an MSO, we can help thousands. We won't make as much money, but that's okay. We'll make it with a lot more money, a lot more people, so it's good for us. But they'll be completely empowered. And I think that's a trend. We're kind of going back to the future with this whole gig economy. It reminds me of like the old butcher, baker, candlestick maker, the heart, what's the guy, the blacksmith. Uh-huh. This was the way of 200 years ago. That's what we're going back to.
This is going to be very disruptive for the physicians that have their own med spas.
No, they can be part of our MSO.
Sure. But if they're existing right now in the workplace and they have their employees, this is going to pull their employees away from them, isn't it? The independent entrepreneurial employees? I hope
the smart ones will say, you know what? Let me join the MSO. I'll have less headaches because I won't have to, and I've heard this from several, I don't have to spend all my time, energy, incentives chasing those top 10, 20% injectors. And then the bottom ones, I'm trying to figure out transition plans, and that's a headache. And then I got the folks in the middle that are just kind of getting by. Mm-hmm. I'm like, let it sort itself out. Why do you want to, it's kind of like of America. It's bottoms up versus Russia. It's top down. Doesn't work. Top down doesn't work.
Right.
Let it be bottoms up. And this is a bottoms up model for Medspa. So I hope that the smart ones will say, hey, HR is a big problem for me. let me do it this way. They won't have to spend as much on HR. They won't have salaries. They won't have the fixed costs. They could have like one person there at like a front desk, 20 rooms, a few people cleaning up, and that's it. They probably make as much or more money.
Who, the owner of the space?
Medspa.
The Medspa.
Net, not gross.
Yeah.
But the net,
I think you're
everything,
right.
They might make about the same with a fraction of the headaches. And the world sorts itself out. The best ones keeps being the best ones.
So how will people like myself get a hold of you and get involved in this? Let's say I wanted to switch my Medspa over to your model.
Yeah.
How would I get a hold of you?
Iggy at Vansanity, Iggy. We're a small company. We're less than 10 employees right now because we're just proving the concept. And the MSO, we hadn't even marketed it. People just came to us. I got one on the plane ride over here from a gal in Atlanta.
Do I get my commission?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Seriously.
You were flying out here from Boston and you picked up another client.
I didn't even know it. When I looked at my email, I got a message on LinkedIn from someone from Atlanta. Said, hey, I want to talk to you about
That's brilliant.
franchise. And I'm like, well, they don't even know. I was going to do the reveal here on the MSO. Because it's not on our website. Our website looks like it's just the locations.
Okay.
So the MSO is literally, it's percolated. We've been building our own proprietary software stack for about 15 months.
Okay.
We burned it in Boston and now Dallas. It works. We've got, I think, 95% of the kinks out. And now it's time to take it on the road. And we thought we were going to have to market some of it, and people are coming to us. In fact, I would say that sale has been easier. And my suspicion, and it's only a suspicion, is that the Medspa owners, the entrepreneurial medical directors, the entrepreneurial docs, they're business people already.
Right.
And having this conversation, a B2B sale with them, is a straightforward conversation, and they get it. And it's whereas trying to get someone who's an employee at a Medspa, maybe dissatisfied, and moving to this model from being an employee to entrepreneur, they want it, but it's still it's a leap. It's a leap for them.
Yep.
And so that's been not hard. They want to do it, but you got to handhold them along the way, a lot of it. And it's super satisfying when it works, but it is a lot of work. Not so much for me, but for my colleagues. But with the business people that own the med spas, that are the medical directors, that's a no-brainer. That's a downhill slope, not an uphill slope.
Okay.
So I think my suspicion is that will move much more quickly, and we'll reach more and more people. And probably because of this and because of you, I hope we get a big swing.
How long have you been doing this, Iggy?
That was the kernel of the idea was at that Oscars night in 2018.
Okay, so about 4 years total, 3 to 4 years?
Yeah, we incorporated in 19, and we opened our first place, and our timing was impeccably bad again. We opened the Boston location in Q4 of 2020.
Well, if nothing else, you're consistent.
Yeah, so exactly. Sorry, 2019. So we got COVID. We were hit by COVID within almost weeks of opening. So we muddled through, and we've grown very quickly. Last year versus 2020 was like 5x, and
wow,
approaching $1 million. So it's working even in the face of that. And so this MSO thing, I'm just super excited about it because it's super exciting to see that ride. I mean, that's a drug I love now. I'm on that entrepreneurial drug, and
yes,
boy, it's up and down and up and down. You gotta, people come and they want to be entrepreneurs. I go, ooh, you better strap in, baby.
Yeah.
One day you're going to be on top of the world, and the next Saturday you're going to feel the things going in the toilet.
Yep. Isn't that the truth?
Oh, God.
But that's the thrill of it.
Oh, the dopamine hit is incredible.
Yeah. Are you going to be in San Diego for the Aesthetic Society?
Oh, no. I thought you were going to say no, but I'm sure it's one of our MSO partners will.
So I would encourage you to get involved with the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery or the Aesthetic Society.
Okay.
Because that's where the best and brightest in this business hang out.
Queen Nefertiti.
Yes, that's our gal. Yeah. And I would encourage you to get involved with the Aesthetic Society.
So this is not the ASPS or
no plastic surgeons. ASPS? Are you kidding me? Those are a bunch of reconstructive wannabes. No, we're talking about the Aesthetic Society.
Okay.
You can just forget about ASPS.
All right. There you go.
The American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. This is the technology of beauty.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
And the beauty business.
All right.
So, Iggy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the program, and I look forward to working with you and networking with you. I can think of a number of ideas for you and some opportunities for you going forward.
Talk to me.
I'm not going to do it being recorded here. Okay. I will. I'll do it off camera.
All right. Yeah. And so the one thing I definitely wanted to talk about, and I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to all this stuff. There was I don't think he won the Nobel Prize. He might not have been eligible because he died. There's a guy named Frank Coase, C-O-A-S-A-O-S-E. And he wrote a paper, C-O-A-S-E, I think it's Frank Coase. He died almost 100 years ago, or wrote the paper almost 100 years ago. And his economic thesis was that, and he sort of proved it mathematically, that the only reason for the existence of a corporation is transactions costs. That by coalescing people into a corporation, you reduce friction in transactions costs.
Okay.
That was always true until the internet. And now, because transactions costs, communication, video, people now are living all over the world, right? We're a remote first company. We have people in California, 2 in California. We have, 1 in Texas, 2 in Texas, 3 in Massachusetts. We're all over the place.
So transaction costs are nil, right?
They are approaching nil. They're getting lower and lower and lower. So you don't need to have people in one corporation. They're going to atomize. And that's what's happening with the gig economy. That's where I come back to it. That's why I believe this trend. When you reduce transactions costs, you reduce the need for the firm. In fact, going back to Jeff Bezos, a man I've met once or twice, but doesn't know who I am. But I just admire him greatly with his thinking process. What he did with the cloud, he did, I believe it was 2006 or 7. He created essentially internally separate companies. So they were all under the Amazon umbrella, but he said, act as if they're a customer. The only way you guys can connect was through an API, an application program interface.
Right.
He goes, you don't have a captive customer, because if you have a captive customer, you're going to get lazy and fat and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So so he's atomized within Amazon. They are customers of each other, but arm's length. And that's just a first step. I think that's going to keep happening and happening and happening. And you can call it consulting. I believe it's because people will have the tools. You'll be able to do marketing. You'll be able to do communications at the individual solopreneur level.
Okay. What period of time do you think that's going to take?
Oh, it's going to take generations to happen.
Oh, generations.
Generations. But I will tell you, COVID has accelerated. Sorry, I didn't mean to point at you.
No, that's fine.
COVID has accelerated. You've heard the Great Resignation. And the number of applications for LLCs has exploded, right? What COVID did, and it's funny, when you're an entrepreneur, when you go do a slide deck, one of the required slides is competition.
Right, of course.
And as an entrepreneur, I will tell you the number one competition I've always had for a disruptive company is status quo.
Yes.
It's always the number one competitor.
Why change?
Bingo.
Yeah.
Well, COVID made everyone reevaluate.
Absolutely.
And that has helped entrepreneurs. It hurt us for a year or two, but it made people reevaluate what they were doing. That's why people are remote. That's why people are starting their new business. Like, well, wait a second. I can do this. I don't have to work for the man. I want flexibility. I mean, I remember every time I take an Uber or Lyft car, and I've taken hundreds. I don't know if you have. I always, get into a chat with the gal or guy, and 9 times out of 10, I say, why do you do this? They say flexibility.
Yeah.
It's wildly, my son, he's not going to do a summer job. He's going to do DoorDash or, as a college kid, or, he wants to be able to clock in, clock out.
On his own
bingo,
schedule, right.
His own schedule.
Yep.
The generation's like, I don't want to be 9 to 5, whatever. I mean, there's something to be said for the social aspect of work. I think there's something that we need to rethink that. I don't know how we bring that in. But you don't need to be there 40 hours a week at the office. There's going to be some change there. And I think all these things it's kind of ground shifting on all this stuff.
No question about it. And COVID certainly brought it to a forefront, right?
Because
working remote and all those Zooms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Zoom.
I mean, Zoom, geez. I mean, living on Zoom.
Yeah. Without video conferencing, our company couldn't exist. Like I said, we have 2 or 3 in California, Dallas, and Mass. I mean, it'd be too expensive as a company.
No question.
You can find really talented people. We have our front end development folks. They aren't employees; they're contractors, but they were based in the Ukraine.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Now, fortunately, a group of them, for their own sake, more than anything, we were talking. They moved to Turkey, their families. So
before the war.
Just before. Early February, thankfully. I love those guys and gal, but yeah, I think it's funny. They're young people and they're conflicted too about being out. They're happy they're safe. They're happy that their immediate families are safe, but they've got friends and extended family that aren't.
And their country.
Exactly. And they're seeing
under siege.
People stand up for incredible things, and I can't believe it, the situation they're in emotionally. It's gotta be tough.
No question about it. Well, Iggy, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you.
Yeah.
I look forward to working with you more in the future. I've got a number of ideas for the both of us.
Yeah.
And for you.
Okay.
Independent thoughts. And safe travels back to Boston.
I appreciate it.
Stay in touch with me.
Yeah.
Stay in touch with our beloved society, the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, or the Aesthetic Society.
Oh, is that with an E or an A? Do you guys call it ASAPs?
Well, some people do choose to say ASAPs. I don't. I was the president, and I tried to extinguish part of that, although it's a tough one. But that sounds sounds like as soon as possible to me. So I don't call it ASAPs. A number of people do, and I refer to it lovingly as the Aesthetic Society. And we have fellowships in aesthetic surgery and so forth. And then people are trained, and then they go into work in places like you're talking about. So I'm going to talk about your Vansanity to my various fellows and residents and the people involved.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'd love to continue this conversation.
Good. I look forward to it.
All right.
And I want to thank all of you for joining us again for an exciting episode of The Technology of Beauty. And you can watch and listen to this on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, The Technology of Beauty, and you can watch over 50 episodes where I get to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. And as you just heard and saw, today was no exception. Thank you very much. See you next week.